Hello, and welcome back to Critical Political Thinking. We apologize for our brief hiatus. We took a 2-week brief stop from filming for respect to the people that lost their lives in the tragic Capitol protests that we were in attendance to, as well as there was just a ton of misinformation that was circulating, and we didn't really have any confirmed sources or any identified facts that we could present that were any different than the news that was being presented. So we felt it in our best interest to stand back and kind of let things pass. Now that they have, and now that there's a new administration in place, it's now time to get back to the thick of things and explain to you where we stand as a country, to go over those Capitol riots, to discuss some of this cabinet and the cabinet selections that Biden has chosen, as well as to discuss, his opening address and go over the unity that he is trying to spread. So welcome back. My name's Corey Camasso, and this is Critical Political Thinking. Hello, and welcome back to Critical Political Thinking. My name's Corey Camasso, and I'm your host. Today we're going to be discussing some very important details and where we stand as a country and how things have progressed over the past 2 weeks during our hiatus from reporting. Let's first talk about what happened before the new Biden administration has been brought into place, and that would be the Capitol riots. I have never in my life seen such irony and oppositional reporting than I have in the Capitol protest riots, however you want to label them. We were there. We saw exactly what happened, and we saw how things progressed from an extremely peaceful event into something that was triggered by actions of the Capitol Police being outnumbered, the deployment of tear gas into crowds that were basically doing nothing. And it basically incited this riot and this advancement that I don't think would have happened had the Capitol Police and Mayor Bowser had this situation properly addressed. I think their failures put both ourselves at risk, as well as the risks of their entire staff that they had that day. I feel that not only were they extremely outnumbered, but they didn't present the same form of preparedness that they had for events in the past. It's almost as if they wanted this to happen. It's as if they expected this to occur and planned it as a final nail in the coffin and an attempt to prevent future people or groups from getting together and establishing either a new Trump party under a new party system, or in a sense, the followers of Trump being targeted and labeled as racists and now inciters of violence, even if, they had no part in this. And we'll go over a little more about that. But first I want to talk about, the sheer irony. You had the BLM riots that lasted for 7 months, where they've destroyed small businesses. They completely laughed at curfews. They assaulted officers without talking to them, without pleading with them to join their side or to help. They simply attacked them. Then you have the Capitol violence, if you will. And yes, it was violent. And yes, there were people that were assaulted, and there were people that should be brought to charges, just like each and every protest and every other riot, and every other time that violence begets speaking and speech and brain power and the American truth and the American way through the legal system. Sometimes you do need force, but not, you have people like there is one of them, but God, not this one. Christopher Cuomo, the wonderful reporter who said, "Since when do protests have to be peaceful?" And then 5 months, 6 months later, when it doesn't fit his agenda, magically Oh, this can't be. Protests are not supposed to be violent. They're not supposed to be. They've incited violence. They are now seditionists. It's just disgusting and despicable the way that these mainstream media types have portrayed half of America. And I say half of America because, yes, I still firmly believe that half of America and the majority of Americans voted for Donald J. Trump. And through the state's individual alteration of the legal avenues on, the constitutions in each state, they just trampled on them and used this pandemic as a route, in a sense, in this master plan to eliminate and remove Donald Trump for office. And this final nail in the coffin is exactly what they needed to ensure that he doesn't run again, because they're going to pursue these impeachment and they're going to convince enough of these rhino conservative senators that, he doesn't belong in office. He's nothing but trouble. He's going to cause issues. He's going to incite more violence. But how come they're not bringing to light Maxine Waters? How much violence has she incited? You have Cynthia Johnson, who literally incited violence against Donald Trump supporters, and yet that just died right out. Media didn't even want to bother to cover it. How is this not completely obvious to the majority of Americans? Have they become so oblivious that they don't see this? I just don't understand. There's hundreds of arrests within 3 weeks for the Capitol violence. How many arrests were there in total for the BLM 7 months where they took over an entire town? Mind you, remember Chaz, where they took over an entire federal building, an entire police station, and yet nothing occurred? None of those people were charged? You think they didn't have camera proof? There were live stream cameras the entire time. And yet there is not an FBI investigation into them. Why? Can you answer me why? And if that's not the defense for each and every person at the Capitol riots, this literal racist environment where whites are now being targeted. And I say that sadly because I understand the injustice for the minorities, and they do deserve equality. But right now, the whites are being unjustly targeted. And if you don't agree, then you're no better than anyone else playing part in this. And now we have a new Biden administration, which absolutely scares the hell out of me. Not because of who he is, not because of who his family is, not because of what's occurred in the past, not because of the 47 years that he's done absolutely nothing and now magically he's going to do everything, but because of the irony he's portraying. We have a new president, a quote-unquote rightfully elected president through a quote-unquote transparent election that we seriously have zero transparency to. If there was transparency, there would have at least been one court case where we could have at least presented the evidence that the claim doesn't exist. Just because someone claims it's not there doesn't mean that it's not there. It's just that no one ever was given the opportunity to properly present it. And that's the disgrace. And that is why the electoral system in our country will never be trusted again. And that is why, unless there are major changes in the next 2 years, I truly fear what will become of America. Because if you can't trust the electoral system in this country's the entire reason it was created is no longer valid. This country will cease to exist as we know it. The Constitution will become nothing but a meaningless piece of paper. And that scares me, because that's not what all of this was for. So let's talk about this new administration and this unity that's being presented. His whole entire entrance speech was, all this unity, this, that, and the other thing. Can you explain to me, and I'm being 100% on it, explain to me how if you want unity, how the same day, within the first day, you literally overturned each and everything that the half of Americans, the half that you want to proclaim unity to, that half of America worked for the past 4 years. You flipped it and threw it on its face. And let's talk about those things. How do they really benefit America? And do they benefit America? How does the Paris Accord benefit America? Explain to me how an agreement where we have to participate and begin now, but yet somehow, other countries that participate don't even have to begin until 2035. This greatly puts America at a major energy disadvantage. This has already been proven that it will cost Americans at the end of the day around $20,000 for a family of four. That's right. Look into the facts and the statistics. The Paris Accord is detrimental to America, and maybe it will help the climate in the future. But right now, we need to focus on America and fixing the problems we have present, the problems that were presented by a virus that was created by China. We fail to realize this. We blame a presidency for a pandemic that he had nothing to do with. Every other country is going through the same shit, and yet somehow it's all Donald Trump's fault. Explain that to me. I mean, I just don't understand it. You're setting America backwards. We're now going back into the World Health Administration, or the World Health Organization, that we documented, lied, and withheld evidence that caused the Trump administration to, number one, look bad, and number two, allowed the media to target and attack him for only going by the information the World Health Organization presented, which we later found was factually inaccurate, and that's why we pulled from the WHO. But now you magically have the WHO back and Dr. Anthony Fauci right where he's started. And keep in mind, who owns all the patents for the humanization of the coronavirus, the COVID virus, the humanization, or when it becomes in the human form? Who owns all those patents? And who owns all the patents for the virus and the magical vaccine that is now being blasted through our world? Dr. Anthony Fauci. Look it up. He is the one man that will profit the most. And magically, he's now the man in charge. You don't think this has financial ties to the Democratic Party? You're nuts. You're absolutely nuts and blind. Let's talk about some of the immigration policies. He's immediately restricted and stopped building the wall. Yet he finds it necessary to build a wall around himself. Funny, walls don't work, and yet you're constructing them all over Washington, D.C. Go figure. On top of that, you have the administration, ICE, the group that actually has to deal with the shit at the border, and you're telling me that they have no idea what they're talking about, but you, an 80-year-old man, has some better clue. I'm lost. I'm absolutely at a loss of words. It's a matter of time until we're in trouble. He ended the Muslim ban. How does that benefit America? Please explain to me how that benefits America, other than allowing Muslims that now worship Joe Biden can come into this country, become part of this country, and target and hurt the country from within, all just so the Democrats can gain a few extra votes. That is the reason that they're doing all of the immigration policies in place. They realize their voter base is literally dead smack center right now with the conservative side. Half and half. Now, they've alienated the majority by forcing them into the racist category through this Capitol riots and the insurrectionists and so on and so forth. But whatever's left, they're going to try and destroy, or they're going to add to their side by adding these new Americans through the Dreamers. They're trying to allow 11 million Dreamers and people that are illegally came into this country. They are trying to make them now citizens. And who would be the magical man that did it? Joe Biden. So who's the one that's going to now get their vote in the future? Joe Biden. That's now 11 million Americans that will garner the right to vote, that didn't come to this country legally, and they're only doing it to bolster their political agenda and their party. But it doesn't benefit America in any way, shape, or form. We're already at a decline. We're already looking for more positions and jobs. We already need more money within the American people, and now we have to spend it on an immigration policy that's going to destroy it. It's not over. I wish I was done. And then you have the census. Now the census. Illegals are now counted in the census. Well, how does that help anybody? How does that help America? Oh, I know how. Because the illegals are in these Democratic counties, in the Democratic areas where they're being allowed to stay, sanctuary cities. Therefore, these people will now be counted in the census. There's more people where they'll have a higher representation and more representatives, everything. That's how all of these counties and these borders are drawn up. They are bolstering their party, and they're destroying the country in the process. I really hope you see. Okay, so the eviction hall. Who does that help? Let us get back to work. Let businesses reopen, and you don't have to worry about destroying the economy and destroying the housing market and destroying the mortgage market. We are so screwed, and no one seems to care. Instead, hand out more money. Cancel student loans. $10,000 for every student debt. Cancel it. We don't need. Who cares if they bought something and don't want to pay for it now? We'll pay for it. The hell with it. Just write it off. I just don't understand. I don't get what's going on. Well, I get what's going on, but I don't understand how Americans aren't outraged. Now, they've cut off the Keystone Pipeline. They're going to shut that down. Do you know how many jobs that is? That's about 400,000 jobs just wiped right out. And this is a man of unity. Where's the unity in that? Because now you've put America behind every other country that's advancing and utilizing their natural resources to bolster their economic stability. And that's what Donald Trump tried to do by putting America first through the Keystone Pipeline. And now Canada's Trudeau's even upset at this. I mean, you don't understand. And I understand, because now what happens is Russia becomes the energy conglomerate. And we have to now import our oil from all these Iranian and all these countries that Joe Biden will now profit from. Don't you see what's going on? He's putting America behind all these other countries just to put him and his Democratic Party in a better position to succeed. At what expense? At the expense of the American people. Please open your eyes, people. If you don't see what's going on, I don't know how else to explain it. And now you have oh my God, please. You have a cabinet. Let's talk about some of his cabinet picks. Even his chief of staff. We have Ron Klain as chief of staff. That's the man who now is the chief of staff for a pandemic-drawn administration where they have to focus on and eliminate a major pandemic. Well, guess what? That's the guy who destroyed everything during the Ebola crisis. Had Ebola been as deadly as coronavirus, we would be all deceased at this point, and that's now the man back in charge. Bet you didn't know that. Merrick Garland, another great person for attorney general. You know, he hates conservatives with a passion. He hates the conservative way to the point where he will literally go against and attack and put each and every person that goes against the Biden administration in jail. And they've already showed that through the Capitol violence. They've already shown that they're willing to target and attack and put all resources available to go after conservatives. But when it comes to Democrats, they can't even seem to track down the person that executed 2 cops. Explain that, please. John Kerry. Do I even need to get into John Kerry? I mean, I can't think of any other word besides moron. And I hate to say that because it's not even my words. That's just, I mean, everything the guy's ever done has failed with the exception of his military career. And we thank him for his service. But as a common sense driven individual, that's where he fails. And keep in mind, his son and Joe Biden's son, Hunter, they're the two that basically profited the most from Burisma, that Russian energy conglomerate that now is going to take over. Biden's kid's going to profit like a you-know-what, because this was all the plan all along. That's why they hid the Hunter Biden debacle until after the election, because now it's already done. There's nothing anyone could do about it, and they're going to draw ties to Burisma, and you're going to see how fast Burisma now grows, or the tie-offs or the spin-offs of Burisma will substantially now profit, because the Keystone Pipeline, the majority of the oil here in the United States where we would have been able to self-suffice, is gone. So now we have to depend on these countries. They're going to skyrocket in profits. You don't see the ties and the profits and the links to all of these problems. And yet this is unity. This is unity from Joe Biden. Yep, unity. Turning on its face everything that the conservatives have worked so hard to do, and you still want to say, well, we need to work together. Well, then let's work together. Why didn't, instead of on your first day, you get together with conservatives and Republicans, and Democrats and independents and the Green, everybody get together and say, what is it that can not just go in and destroy everything that they've done? That's not unity at all. As a matter of fact, it's the opposite of unity, and you are now separating this country even further. You are doing the opposite of what you're claiming you're going to do, Mr. Biden. And I'd like to know how you plan to fix that. Please explain that to us. We need to know, because we're not going to be silent anymore. We're going to continue to talk. And we're not going to go through violence. We don't need to use violence. The Conservative Party's never used violence. You know, you have all these people that are saying, oh, they're so terrible. They destroyed the city. First of all, they went into the Capitol. They didn't burn it down. They broke in. Yes, they smashed windows, but they didn't smash statues. They didn't destroy the history of the building. They took a few things of the people that they considered treasonous. Yes, they did. And they thought what they were doing was in the right name. And, it's sad because you have people that destroyed businesses that had nothing to do with it. And all of a sudden, these people attack something that technically had something to do with it. And they're the worst of the worst. Please, I just don't understand how they could even be balanced. I don't understand how one party could be hated and the other party can be social justice warriors and balance they need a statue for them. It's not fair. And when is America going to wake up and realize we need to work together? We need unity. But everything that's happened in the past 2 days has been nothing but division and separating and further proving exactly what Donald Trump said was going to happen. And that scares me. That scares me greatly. I mean, what do we do? Where do we go from here? Well, let me explain. And I'm happy to say that we do have an answer for that. What we do is we don't give up. We don't need violence. The conservatives are the ones that paid attention to the curfew. There wasn't a single person out on the street after 6 p.m. because that is how the conservatives work. They made a point that they thought they were making. We didn't enter the building. We knew entering the building would do no good. We knew that was desecrating our great monuments, the complete opposite of everything our party is supposed to be working for. And that's why we chose, and our staff chose, not to enter the building or cause any kind of damage or destruction or harm or touch any officers. None of that. That's not what we were there for. We're there to document and raise our voices if necessary. And that's exactly what we did. And that's what the majority of conservatives did. And to be labeled, and we were even called terrorists for our participation in a First Amendment protected activity, something that up until that date was social justice warrior heaven. And now all of a sudden, because the other side decided to take action, we're now criminals and insurrectionists, seditionists. It's a disgrace. It's sad. And so many things have been changed in the first 2 days of a Biden administration that are supposed to be preaching unity. So we hope when we come to you in the next few days, with this migrant caravan we're going to be discussing that's headed here, making its way through Guatemala. The Guatemalan police are doing their best to stop them, but they're finding out that Biden's probably just going to let them in anyway. So what's the point in causing the ruckus? We have all these people coming. This isn't immigration. This is an attack. This is an attack on the American way of life. And I really hope that they stop hiding behind the words unity and realize that they are simply pushing their single party system. And they have no intention on working on unity. As a matter of fact, all they want is your obedience. The Democratic Party doesn't care what you have to say. If you don't agree with them, you mean nothing to them. And that's not the American way. That's frankly not even the conservative way. We're here to talk. We're here to sit at the table and negotiate. And they don't even want to discuss. And now we have an impeachment trial pending around the corner. Another disgrace to this great country. The president did nothing wrong. He didn't incite any violence. He said to raise your voices, not raise your fists. The violence was incited by the shortcomings on the Capitol Police, by the fact that they didn't staff properly. And I'm not saying the individuals that were there, they busted their ass, they did their best. And I'm at a loss of words for what actually occurred that day. But at the end of the day, the people that are mostly responsible are the people that orchestrated the Capitol Police and failed to pay attention to the sheer size of the crowd. They didn't staff properly. They didn't do what should have been done from the beginning, and they could have prevented all of this, but they didn't want to. They wanted that last nail in the coffin. So, America, I hope you open your eyes. I hope you realize, and I hope you see what's going on. That's why we decided to come back after the 2-week hiatus, and that's why we'll continue now to bring coverage and to continue to show the truth behind what's going on in this new administration. We have to continue to fight for what's right in America. We have to preserve our Constitution. We have to stay away from a socialist Marxist government. We can't allow Black Lives Matter and Antifa to dictate the future of our country. We can't allow these independent interest groups to come and dictate the future of the Democratic Party. Instead, we have to explain to them that just because they took an election through changing the rules to make it work to their benefit, We won't say stole. We'll just say they changed the rules to make it work to their benefit, because that's exactly what happened. They manipulated the election in order to win it. That's the facts. There's nothing not factual about that. They changed the rules, and that's how, through those changes, they were able to gather the amount of votes they got. Now, did they get them legally? We don't know. We'll never know, because they didn't allow the proper transparency, and they can't argue that fact either. These are all things that need to be addressed, and these are all stories that we're going to cover in the near future. Please like, please subscribe, please ring the notification bell, and please rumble this video. We clearly will not make any of the algorithms, and the information that we're sharing goes against the trends of social media as well as mainstream media. However, we know these are the things that true Americans need to hear, and that's why we even decided to come back and present this material, and we'll continue to do so. So please ring the notification bell so you can be continued to notified when we share these valid and important details about what's going on in our amazing country. Please continue to raise your voices, but don't raise your fists. Violence is never going to be the answer. It won't help, because the only people that you would need to fight against are truly Americans. And that's not the point in what we're about to do. We don't need a civil war. We need a civil union. We need everyone to get together and realize that Republicans and Democrats are useless. Americans are the way of the future. If we don't start working together and doing the opposite of basically everything that Mr. Biden did today and yesterday, then this country will not succeed. So I plead to you, Biden administration, please look forward and realize that America should come first. That other countries, while they matter, should not be the focal point of your first day in the administration. And frankly, out of the 17, 19 executive orders administered, none of them benefited America in any way, shape, or form. And that scares me. Thank you so much for watching Critical Political Thinking. My name's Corey Camasso. Please like, please subscribe, please ring the notification bell, and please rumble. Thanks for watching. God bless America.